in the West, we are born and raised into a religious culture. Even those of us who aren't religious in a Judeo-Christian way. But the culture says you are sinners. The core of who you are is a sinner. And you have to do X, Y, and Z in order to be saved. And so when we've got a religious culture that says the core of who you are is a sinner, and then we've got a commercial culture that says if your waist isn't the right size, you might as well go and hang yourself because your life is worthless. And then we've got voices inside of our head that say you're never going to be anything. You can never do anything. Well, it's no wonder that we can't find happiness. And so the answer then becomes not changing our religion. It doesn't matter in whom you have faith. If you have faith in the divine in the form of Jesus Christ, if you have faith in the divine, the name of Krishna, Allah, Adonai, or the tree in your backyard, or your grandmother, it doesn't matter. As long as we connect with that divine source, then we know that not only is our cup overflowing, but everything is overflowing. And then we're able to hear that divine voice in our head that slowly, slowly, slowly starts to take the place of other people's voices. And that's when we come home. It's not about, as Puja Swamiji has said over the satsangs in the last few evenings, as Puja Sri Shankaracharya said, it's not about becoming. It's about realizing. And that is really where the key to this happiness lies. In realizing that divinity within ourselves. Thank you. Puja Swamiji has now tragically gotten what so many of us have been struggling with, and I'm wondering how many of us he seems to have taken it from. That's really what the Guru does. It's not just metaphoric when we talk about the Guru taking your karma or taking your pain, but he takes the cough, he takes the laryngitis, he takes it all. And unfortunately, Puja Swamiji this morning has woken up with a bad throat and is now saying that he doesn't feel able to speak. So we'll sit here and have his divine darshan and have the words and the teachings that come non-verbally, which are just as powerful and just as lucid and just as transformative as those that come verbally. And we'll spend the rest of the time continuing on in the questions and answers from last night. I've had a couple of people come up with different questions. So, did you want to start?
Thank you. For those that may not have been here last night, maybe I could repeat the two parts of the question. Maybe we can stick to the second part in terms of going into more detail in terms of answers. So my first part of the question was in terms of cleaning the mirror, taking dust off the mirror, would it help me if I had a large beard, as many of the gurus, saints that we meet, and there was a very good explanation that it comes, as I understand it, more from the tradition of living in caves in the mountain, and there was no beauty parlors, there was no hairdressers, and there was no interest in the body as much as the spiritual path. At the second part of my question was more, given that I wish to continue cleaning the mirror, I have for many years been doing so, and there's still plenty of dust on the mirror. How do I proceed? The answers that I have been hearing is you must surrender. I feel as a Westerner surrendering is something extremely difficult, elusive, and in fact I don't want to give myself that target. I'm ready to have several lives to achieve it. At the moment I'll be happy to have a quieter mind, have less desires, less attachments, which I feel are related to a quieter mind, and I invited comments that would help indeed have less what I called cobwebs and monkeys in my head that are causing this turbulence. The comment this morning, which I appreciate, addressed that in many ways, and any new ideas that could be added would be grateful.
Sure. You and your sadhana, because most of us are pretty content to let the cobwebs stay, and some of us have even become sort of attached to the spiders that the cobwebs have attracted or that have created their webs there. And as much as we may know that it's important to get rid of them, we've started to feel like those spiders are us. And to surgically remove them is painful and difficult. So I think what's most important about this is to realize the word sadhana literally means our spiritual practice. It doesn't mean spiritual perfection. It's practice. We're on a path, we're on a journey. And it's important to remember that the practice of it is as essential a piece of it as the destination. Okay. That being said, when we find ourselves sitting in meditation, there's so much. Puja Swamiji always says, we're in the world 24 hours a day. God never comes to us. We sit for meditation for 5 minutes to be with God, and the entire world comes. What is that about? It's about the insatiable nature of our desires. The cobwebs are actually, monkeys is much more the term that we talk about so frequently because it actually tends to move from minute to minute and moment to moment. We may say, I have 1,000 things on my mind. But the truth is, at any given moment, the brain can only think of one thing. Our brain may go through 1,000 things in rapid succession, but at any given moment, we actually can only have one thought, which is why the practice of mantra is so important. It's very hard. You look at a child. A child is playing with a toy. You want to take that toy away from the child. If you're not going to offer that child anything back, there is no way you are going to get the toy out of that child's hands without a screaming fit. And our mind is the same way. It's not going to let go just like that. It's not going to say, oh sure, empty me. Turn me into this wonderful vacuum. take away all of that which I identify as myself. Give me nothing in return, no problem. Put me into the great void. That's the mind's greatest fear. So what we do as a bridge is we offer the mind something else. And that's where the practice of mantra, that's one of the aspects of it. As long as we are chanting the mantra, there actually can't be another thought simultaneously. If that mantra is not just in our words, because I can be speaking one thing and thinking another thing, but if that mantra is going in my mind as well, particularly if I'm doing it non-verbally, I can't simultaneously be chanting the mantra in my mind and making a shopping list and hating my parents and worrying about my wife or husband cheating on me and so many other things. So the mantra takes the 1,000 things on our mind and it says, all right, if you've got to have something, at least have this. So the first thing that I would say to you, and I think one of the most powerful ways that I have found personally, is as you practice the mantra in meditation, even when you're not in meditation, even at times when you can't afford to close your eyes, you're driving the car, you're walking down the road, you're sitting with someone, that mantra starts going. And if you can keep that mantra going, what you'll find is that slowly, 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 it actually starts replacing the rest of the nonsense that's there. Another really important thing to do is to realize, what is it I'm desiring? What is it I'm running after, and why? What do I think I'm going to get from it? As we've just talked, none of our happiness comes from any of these things. So if we can actually realize that from these desires, all it's going to breed is more desires. More and more and more and more. That awareness leads us on the path to say, okay, enough. Draw the line. And the stillness comes. But it is practice. It's absolutely practice. And that's where meditation comes in. It's where yoga comes in. Another important aspect that I have found is service, seva. If we are engaged, fully engaged, our minds, our hands, our being, in service, it tends to stop the monkeys. So the more engaged we can become, the monkeys tend to roam when we've got free time. So if we've got enough free time to let cobwebs grow and monkeys dance in our minds, let us get ourselves engaged in service and seva, help people who need it in a hands-on sort of way.
For just being able to take this in on a daily basis. So thank you for that. In the West, our spiritual teachers, we have kind of a different protocol of greeting, our teachers, and it seems like it's different here, and I was hoping you could just share with me what is, I don't want to use the word proper, but in that way, I would be so appreciative.
Will you just clarify what you mean by greeting? Do you mean when we meet, we bow? Are you talking about a verbal salutation?
Through the eyes. So.
Good.
Okay.
All right. The question has actually raised two different issues, both of which are really beautiful. The protocol in the East for greeting the spiritual masters is we bow. We bow down. Why do we bow down? Because the ego is the greatest impediment on the spiritual path. But it's very hard to bow down to each other. It's only the really great enlightened masters who are really able to see in each other the divine. Ramakrishna Paramhans used to bow down to prostitutes because he saw the Divine Mother in them. But that's